Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make this Love Hearts sunglasses case. Feel free to adjust the pattern for whatever object you want to make it for. You can make it shorter, taller or wider. The materials you'll need are a 4-ply 100% cotton yarn. I'm using this one from Liesel's Loop. You can use a different yarn and I'll teach you how to tailor it to the size of your object. You'll need a pair of scissors, tapestry needle with a large eye, stitch markers, and for the 4-ply yarn I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook. I also use this ribbon to create the bow and to tie off my pouch. This is a 9mm wide ribbon. For this video I'm going to demonstrate how to make the case on this yarn. This is 8-ply. I was just having a lot of trouble shooting 4-ply. The camera kept focusing out, but I'll make it exactly as it's written in the written pattern. So let's start with round 1 with a slip knot where you're going to chain 24, or if you're making it to the size of a different object or you have a different yarn, you're just going to chain any multiple of 6. Your stitch markers come in straight away, so I'm going to place 1 in the first chain from my hook. This is stitch marker A. And stitch marker B goes into the third chain from my hook. It's 1, 2, 3. For round 2, you're going to half double crochet into the third chain from your hook, which is the one we've marked with stitch marker B. If you find it's in the way, remove it and replace it after the stitch is made. For a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through all loops. So the first 2 stitches we just skipped count as our first half double crochet. And now we're going to half double crochet into each of the next 20 stitches. And if you've done a foundation chain of a different length, you're basically going to half double crochet into each stitch except the last one. So we've got 1 chain left and you're going to place 4 half double crochet all into that stitch. You can turn your work as you go. And now we are on the other side of our foundation chain. We're going to half double crochet into each of the next 20 chains, or if you've done different number of foundation chains, you'll half double crochet into each stitch, into each of the back bumps of our foundation chain until you reach stitch marker B. Now you've just reached stitch marker B. You're going to remove it and place 2 half double crochet into that space. And then install the stitch marker again into your last half double crochet. And then you're going to slip stitch to the start, which we marked with stitch marker A. So remove that, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through everything. For round 3, you're going to chain 1. You're going to single crochet into the same stitch and mark the starting stitch with stitch marker A. You're going to single crochet into each of the next 47 stitches, including the last stitch we marked with stitch marker B. Let's remove stitch marker B, your last single crochet into that space, and then remove stitch marker A and slip stitch into that space. And you want to pull on this loop a bit to tighten that slip stitch. Now you're going to leave a large loop and remove your hook from this loop. You can also secure it with a stitch marker if you're worried about it unraveling. We're going to move on now to the hearts shade. So we'll attach the new color with a slip knot. And we're going to insert it into the first stitch of our previous round of round 3, which is just the stitch we slip stitched into. That will be this one. So insert your hook into that space, place your slip knot onto your hook and pull that through. Let's start with a chain 2, and this is used to get the height for our puff stitches. So for a puff stitch, you're going to yarn over once, insert your hook into the same space, pull up the loop to the height of your work, which is about the height of the chain 2. Yarn over a second time, insert your hook, pull up the loop up to height, and yarn over a third time, insert your hook, pull up the loop. Then you yarn over and pull through all loops and secure with a chain 1. This chain 1 is a part of your puff stitch. Then you're going to chain 2 and skip the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and insert your hook for a puff stitch into that 6th space. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up the loop. You might have to curve your work the way it's going to grow. Pull up a loop up to the height of your work, yarn over again, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over a third time, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all loops, securing chain 1. Chain 2. Now we insert a puff stitch still into that same space. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull up a loop, pull through all loops, securing chain 1. Now we chain 2 and skip 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and puff stitch into that 6th space. Securing chain 1, chain 2, and puff stitch again into the same space. Securing chain 1, chain 2, and skip 5, and that's going to be your pattern. You're going to repeat the pattern of puff, chain 2, and puff in the same stitch, chain 2, skip 5, and puff, chain 2, puff, and so on. I'll meet you back in the end when it's time to place a puff stitch into this space to complete our round. So you would have just done your final puff, chain 2, puff, chain 2, and skip 5. Now we're looking at inserting into our starting stitch, and we're going to place a puff into that space. Chain 2. And slip stitch to the start of your puff, which you pick up this stitch and slip on through. So now we're going to do something similar to what we did at the end of the white. Leave a long loop, remove your hook. You can secure with a stitch marker if you like. We'll now return to our background shade, the white color. Now to start the white, you're going to locate your white loop, and you're going to locate a set of puff, chain 2, and puffs that's physically closest to it. So it's just the one we just did. Insert your hook into that chain 2 space between puffs and place that white loop on here, and you'll need to tighten the loop gently around your hook and bring that loop on through. So to start, I'm going to chain 1. This does not count as a stitch. Then we chain 2. And now we're looking not at the puffs we just did, we're looking at this set of stitches below it. So what we want to do is locate the 2nd, 3rd and 4th stitches. We skipped 5, so we want the 2nd, 3rd and 4th stitch. You're going to place a single crochet into that 2nd, 3rd and 4th stitch, and it's going to be a loose one so that it covers our chain 2 of the hearts round. Into the 3rd stitch and the 4th stitch. Then we chain 2, single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 2, and now again we're going into the skipped stitches, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and a loose single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 2, loose single crochet into the 2nd, 3rd and 4th skipped stitches. So I'm keeping it fairly loose. As if you notice, our hearts are forming now because the white is covering up the pinks in exactly the right spots. Now we chain 2 and single crochet, and now we have a pattern we're just going to repeat all the way around. You're going to chain 2, work our loose 3 single crochets, chain 2, single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 2, loose single crochet, and so on. Let's meet back at the end until we reach the beginning of the round. We'll slip stitch to our starting chain 1. That's what my work looks like so far. It will start to curve upwards into a pouch or case shape. I've just done my final single crochet into our starting space, and I'm going to slip stitch to that chain 1 we did at the start. That's the end of round 5. For round 6, I like to increase my tension just because it helps stop the pouch flaying out a little bit and it keeps the shape straighter. And the best way to do it is to do yarn under, yarn under. If you're not sure how to do that, I will link a few videos in the description. To start this round, you're going to chain 1. You're going to half double crochet into the next chain 2 space, and mark this half double crochet with stitch marker A. Half double crochet into the next 3 stitches, half double crochet into the next chain 2 space, half double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet into the next chain 2 space, and so on. So you're simply placing half double crochets all the way around into each chain 2 space and into each stitch. Let's meet back at the end when it's time to slip stitch to start. So we've just done a half double crochet into our last stitch. We're going to mark that half double crochet with stitch marker B, remove stitch marker A and slip stitch into that space. Pulling it quite tight. Round 7 is pretty easy, so you start with a chain 1 and single crochet into the same space. You're going to mark that single crochet with a stitch marker A, Then you simply do single crochets all the way around. And just quickly, I did forget to mention this round 7, with the single crochets, I'm doing the yarn under to keep the tension as well. For the end of the round, you're going to remove stitch marker B, place your last single crochet into that space. Remove stitch marker A and slip stitch into that space. Leave a long loop and remove your crochet hook because we're switching back to our heart's colour. This is what your work should look like so far. To start round 8, you're going to locate your pink loop or the colour you've chosen for your hearts. You're going to look to 3 rows below, so that's 1, 2 and 3, and you're looking for our 3 loose single crochets, ones that are physically closest to your loop. Place your hook vertically on the middle single crochet and travel upwards. You're going to pick up the single crochet that this loop touches by inserting your hook and then place your heart's colour onto it. So as before, gently tighten your working yarn to bring that loop to size and then pull it through. So attaching it this way is what gives each row the staggered effect. And then you're simply going to repeat round 4. So it started with a chain 2 and a puff, chain 2, skip 5. Your next set of puff, chain 2, puff will end up being right here. Each new heart forming in between the previous ones. In fact, from this point onwards, you're simply going to be repeating rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 until you reach the height that you like for your glasses or whatever you're making the case for. We'll meet back at that point. You should finish your repetitions on the single crochet round. Alright, you've now reached the desired height of your pouch. I'm going to stop right around here because my glasses fit in this space now. And if you use 4-ply yarn as in the original pattern, I've done 9 rows of the hearts. So you would have just done your final round of single crochet and marked your final single crochet with stitch marker B. You're going to chain 2, and this chain 2 counts as your first double crochet. So I'm going to mark that top chain with stitch marker A. So into the next stitch you then place a double crochet, and in fact into every stitch around you're going to place a double crochet, and including the first chain 2, assuming you started with a foundation chain of 24, you'll have 48 stitches in your round. So let's meet back at the end when it's time to slip stitch to the start. Definitely forgot to mention, but you can actually cut off the pink now because we won't be using it anymore. So whatever colour you've used for your hearts, you can cut that off and leave a long enough tail that you can weave this in. I've reached the end of the double crochet round, and I'm just going to mark the last stitch with marker B, remove marker A and slip stitch into that space. And the final round is a series of single crochets, which you start by chaining 1, single crochet into that same stitch, mark your first stitch with a stitch marker, and let's do single crochets around until it's time to join at the end. And that's my final single crochet. I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and instead of slip stitching, I'm going to join it with an invisible join. So I've left a loop and I've cut my working yarn. I'm just going to pull this loop out, get my yarn onto my tapestry needle. So now let's locate our very first single crochet right here. and insert your needle through both loops. Pull it right on through. Bring your yarn back to the front and insert your loop into the back loop only of your very last single crochet. And it'll create a fake stitch, which I apologize, not the easiest to see on white yarn, but it creates a very seamless finish without leaving the slip stitch knot in your final round of your work. I can show you a little better on the pink pouch, but there is no knot all along the length here. I can't even identify where I have finished the join there. Once joined, just weave in your ends. Now it's time to install our ribbon. I'm going to cut a length that's about roughly 3 times the size of the width of your pouch, and thread it through the needle. On your work, you're going to find roughly the middle point and insert it into the double crochet round. So I'm going in between two double crochet stitches, and then I'm just going to thread it through every 2 double crochets. And when you loop it around to the front, you should still have 2 double crochets in between your ends. And to tie off your pouch, you're just going to make a bow. So first I make the knot, and to make the bow I'll actually link a video which is how I learned, and she teaches it far better than I do. For the ends, I've made this inverted V. To do that, we're just going to take our ribbon tail and fold it in half, and you want to cut it so that you're cutting it higher from where you folded it, if that makes sense. And it creates that edge right there at an angle. And that's how you make the Love Hearts Valentine's Day themed sunglasses pouch, glasses case, whatever you want to call it. It's a really cute gift and a very quick gift to make. And if you do make it and post it online, please do share. I'd love to see. If this video helped you at all, please do like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.